Indeed, this is a remarkable day for Kenya and Uganda. Remember, this is a conference that has been happening for the last 3 years or so. The journey started in Mombasa, went to Diani, then to Kampala, and now it is back here in Malindi, of course, to spur growth in the tourism sector between the two nations. Remember, the bond between the two nations has been exacerbated further by the trade partnerships and the memorandums of understanding that was signed between President Yoweri Museveni himself and our very own president, that is Dr. William Ruto, during the state visit of the head of state from Uganda. Remember, this is a conference that has been happening over the years just to foster the relations not only between the two nations and celebrate what the two nations can offer in that particular sector. And you do remember 3 weeks ago, we had the pleasure of hosting the ambassador of Uganda here, the Consul General in Mombasa, that is Mr. Paul Mukumbia, who told us that the back and forth between the tourist numbers, especially for the last 3 years, has been exponentially increasing, especially with over 400 Kenyans visiting Uganda on a daily basis, with over 200 Ugandans also coming to visit Kenya. Of course, Uganda has the pleasure of offering so many things, including the gorillas, the chimpanzees, which mostly Kenya we do not have. And what Kenya can offer Uganda and other local tourists from the East African nation is the beautiful and sand beaches, not only here in Malindi, Kilifi, Diani, in Mombasa as well. That is what we can offer. Once again, I want to speak to the ambassador. Let me invite him here. Ambassador, if you can join us, and thank you for making time for us on KBC Channel 1. When we last spoke, Ambassador, the conference was yet to happen. Today it is here. What do we expect?
Thank you very much, and thank you for hosting me once again. Your introduction has really said it all. But I want to once again touch on the theme for today's conference, which is about youth, technology, and innovation. So really, we are going to focus on how young people who are key players in the tourism industry can leverage their tech savviness to really grow the tourism industry. These young people, when they travel, they are sharing their experiences live. So we want to see how can we take advantage of this technology and innovation to really, not only the youth, but even us, to really make sure that we use technology and innovation to grow the tourism industry. And as I said, when I visited you at your studios in Nairobi, these young people, sometimes the content they create and share is not the very positive content. So I was saying that supposing all these young people that create and share content, for example, if they came to the coast and started sharing about the beaches at the Kenya coast, the products like the Vasco da Gama pillar not far from here, in Mombasa, about the Fort Jesus, supposing they created and shared a lot of content about these products, wouldn't knowledge and about these products worldwide grow? And therefore, wouldn't that attract more visitors to our region? So really, this is what we are conversing in the room today. And this also gives an opportunity to young people to interact with the industry players, the tour operators, travel agents, and policymakers sitting in one room to really have a discussion on how, working together, we can further grow the tourism industry, not only between our two countries, but also in the region, because we are also talking about regional tourism, which helps us, especially since COVID, to address the challenges related with international tourism. These international tourists, although we really like them and we want them to keep coming, but sometimes they are very unpredictable. Something small happens and many of them cancel their trips. But we in the region, we are more resilient. We are more, if I may, small incidents don't make us cancel our travel plans. So we really also want to begin relying a lot more on regional tourism, on people visiting from our region. And as I said earlier, For example, for a Kenyan to visit Uganda, they don't need a passport, they don't need a visa, they don't even have to fly. So really we need to focus on regional tourism if we are to realize the ambitious targets that all our countries have to grow the numbers and income generated from tourism.
And Ambassador, once you were posted here, let me jog your memory a little bit back in 2022 in Mombasa and in Diani as well. You were talking about the affordability of air tickets. For you to boost a regional migration between these two nations, have you addressed the concerns of affordability, not only for air tickets, but for the people where they're staying accommodation?
On the issue of air travel, really, the governments in the region have a big role to play to really cut down on the taxes that are imposed on air travel, on the air tickets, on the aviation fuel. This is a conversation that we are having even under the East African community to domesticate regional travel. Because, for example, you can imagine someone traveling from Nairobi to Entebbe and vice versa, spending over $400 on an air ticket. And yet, with about 100 or 80 euros, you can travel from Brussels to Paris. So really, this is a conversation that is still ongoing in the region to make sure that we open up the skies, that we domesticate regional travel. So this is what the governments are doing. But also, especially between Uganda and Kenya, the two governments are talking about working on the SGR, connectivity between Uganda and Kenya using SGR. When this is implemented, it is going to be a game changer. When someone can sit on an SGR from Mombasa and travel up to Kampala, really it is pleasure. You don't have to go and check in at the airport and wait. So really, as we work on reducing the cost of air travel, we are also working on the connectivity of the SGR between Uganda and Kenya. This really is also going to grow the numbers. But as I said earlier, governments have already done a lot. For example, by enabling people to travel on their national IDs, because many people don't have these passports, they are still looked at as required to travel very far and wide. So really, especially between Uganda and Kenya, the introduction of traveling on national ID also already facilitated a lot of travel. So really these are the efforts which the governments and the private sector, especially between Uganda and Kenya, we have also discussed the issue of introducing East African rates. We are talking to some partner hotels to have special rates, for example, between the two countries, so that when a Kenyan travels to Uganda, they have a special rate in their hotels. And this is a conversation that we are also having that is ongoing. But really, governments and the private sector have been very proactive. We have worked together with them very closely. For example, the Ugandans have been here on a farm trip since last Wednesday, and all of them were staying in hotels on a complimentary basis. Over 100 Ugandans have been on a farm trip at the Kenya coast, but the hotels at the Kenya coast provided all the beds on a complimentary basis. None of them was paying. So you can see that really the private sector have appreciated this initiative, and they are really supporting it because they are already seeing the benefits. That's why even 4 years later, they are still able to play a very active role. The hoteliers giving us hotel beds, the tour operators giving us the vehicles. So everybody working together to really make sure that we promote this partnership further.
And Ambassador, the last time you were in our studios, you were talking about the numbers, the projections, clearly stating that over 200,000 Ugandans were able to visit the country last year. And of course, over 400 Kenyans visited Uganda in the same year with that particular figure. Are we likely to see these figures increasing?
Yes, really, the figures will keep growing. We hope we can realize at least a 5% growth every year. Of these numbers. Really, it is achievable. It is possible. It is possible for 1 million Kenyans to visit Uganda over the next 5 years. It is possible to triple the number of Ugandans visiting Kenya. That's why these farm trips, which increase on product knowledge, the tour operators knowing how to package these products, it is playing into increasing the numbers. You know, in the past, people thought that in order to have a holiday, one needed to go to Dubai. But for example, here in Kilifi County, yesterday, the Ugandans went to Mambrui sand dunes. Many of them, when they posted the pictures, they thought that, you people, we thought we were at the coast. Kumbe, you are in Dubai. So you can see that many people don't know that even coming to Kilifi, you can experience the sand dunes. So really this product knowledge and exposure is going to really greatly help us grow the numbers. And we are sure we shall get there.
Mm-hmm. And Ambassador, today and tomorrow, how many dignitaries are we expecting here, and what are the likely outcomes you're targeting in this particular conference this year?
I think as at yesterday, about 500 delegates had registered to attend the conference, and I think by now we may even have closed, because that was about our target. When you add the VIPs and invited guests, we may go to over 600 delegates attending the conference, and these are really serious players in the industry. We are not, as I said earlier, this is not a talk show. We really, people come to discuss serious business, B2B, B2G, concluding partnerships and networks. So really, the conversation we are going to be having is about smart destination. We have a panel discussion starting at 9 on smart destinations. What kind of destination does a modern traveler want? Not just concrete, a hotel full of concrete, but something that really, this travel these days is experiential. People want to immerse themselves into what the culture. We are also discussing culture and heritage. We are discussing adventure and sports. So these digital branding and tech-based tourism, which is in line with the theme. So really, these are discussions that are directly affect or help the players to really position themselves in a better way, do the market more digitally than the traditional newspaper or TV. So really, and this is the conversation we are going to be having this morning, and you can see it directly creates more sensitization and awareness amongst the industry players on how to position themselves better and be attractive to the traveler.
And of course, given that we need to wind up a little bit here, Ambassador, we are talking about, we can see you have invited even our Tourism Cabinet Secretary, that is Rebecca Miano. You clearly talked about the importance of having an SGR running from here, the coast, all the way to Entebbe or in Kampala, to ensure that we boost the number of tourists who are crisscrossing both nations. What other agreements we will likely see between Kenya and Uganda to boost tourism?
Of course, as you earlier indicated in your introduction, we already have a memorandum of understanding on cooperation in tourism. So that's where our cooperation is anchored. It talks about training, joint promotion, joint marketing. So really, the anchor of our cooperation now between Uganda and Kenya is the Memorandum of Understanding on Cooperation in Tourism. And we from Uganda are also going to benefit a lot, because we know that Kenya has been at this much longer than us. So really, as Uganda, we also stand to benefit a lot from how Kenya does it, and I'm sure with this partnership, both of us will mutually benefit. And as you have indicated, we are expecting the Cabinet Secretary for Tourism and Wildlife, Honorable Rebecca Miano, and the Governor, of course, the Governor of Kilifi, and the other governors and the waziris from tourism at the coast. So really, it is going to be an interesting interaction today and tomorrow.
And according to the program, I've also seen that you will also be conversing what the outcomes came from the third Kenya-Uganda Tourism Conference. Maybe quickly, what are some of those outcomes, and how much have you implemented?
In Kampala, some of the discussions we had was about dealing with bottlenecks to regional tourism. And the issues we discussed about earlier, the facilitating air travel, those are some of the issues we discussed in Kampala. We talked about sustainability, which is really a trending issue in tourism today. And you see more and more of our players, the national parks and whatever, they are really promoting sustainability. So we created more awareness about sustainability. On how we discussed how to deal with the bottlenecks affecting regional tourism, and all this, the conversation about this continues. As I said earlier, we are really trying to work on improving air connectivity within the region, so that we look at air travel as a road, as we look at, for example, the ferry connecting Kwale and Mombasa, so that we don't look at air travel as luxury, but as a means of moving from point A to point B. And all this is conversation that we are carrying forward from last year, and we shall continue engaging on.
And some of the key highlights of recommendations that you clearly made to, of course, address those bottlenecks and at the end of the day boost tourism in both countries.
Really, we said that, for example, and I touched on this earlier, reducing on the taxes that governments impose on the air tickets, and also introducing more players, because competition also affects the pricing of the tickets. So these are some of the recommendations, and we can see, for example, I was informed recently that Airlink, Safari Link, is introducing connectivity between Nairobi, Kisumu, and Entebbe. So all these are issues we continue to deal with, the recommendations that we follow up. That's why we are bringing them forward, actually, to look at them even at this conference, to see, are we implementing, are we following up, where are we, where do we need to do more? Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. We'll see you inside that particular conference. Thank you for making time on KBC Channel 1. We'll be coming inside and to showcase what the conference will have to offer. And of course, that has been the Ambassador, Paul Mukumbia. He is the Consul General Consulate of the Republic of Uganda in Mombasa County. And of course, this particular conference is the 4th edition. As I told you, the journey started in Mombasa, went to Diani, to Kampala, and now it is here in Malindi. And of course, the recommendations and the key tenets that form-based the Kampala resolution is what they're going to converse. But at the end of the day, it will be about tech, smart traveling, smart tourism. That is what they're going to focus on, given that the world is moving towards that trajectory when it comes to AI and the advancements in technology both nations have made.